Hey, so we're back. So you're thinking about moving to Boulder, Colorado, and you're a dog lover, and you're wondering like what kind of trails are around Boulder that will accommodate my dog, and what kind of trails in general. So because I am a major dog lover, I am going to talk today about 3 or 4 off-leash trails that you can take your dog on in Boulder. If this is the first time to the channel, then just know that we do videos every week. We do tours. We talk about like pros and cons and all kinds of things about not just Boulder, but all the surrounding areas in the Front Range. So subscribe to the channel, drop us a line, drop us an email, drop us a text. If you want to get on a Zoom, then all the information's below. So let's take a look at what is it really like to have a pet in Boulder. So people have like all kinds of crazy pets in Boulder. Like people have goats, obviously horses. It's a huge agricultural area, believe it or not. Like Longmont is totally filled with agriculture. And so we've got farms and we've got pigs and we've got beef ranches and there's lots of buffalo. So it's not just like a city. You can get out of the city and be in some real rural areas pretty quick. Before I talk about the trails and show you some of the trails, let me just tell you that the city of Boulder has this really cool program. It's with the Open Space Mountain Parks Department. It allows for you as an owner, you have to do this training. Once you've done the training, they'll issue your pet a tag that said, hey, I've agreed to the training, and it allows your dog to be off leash on certain designated trails. It's called a voice and sight control tag program. And so the catch is that we've got rangers monitoring all these trails all the time. And so your dog needs to be able to respond to your voice commands or sight commands like hand gestures in order to qualify to be off leash, because you need to make sure that they're not going to disturb other dogs. They're not going to chase the wildlife. They're not going to like bother other people that are on the trails that maybe aren't interested in having your dog come up and say hi or jump on them or whatever. Some of these trails have quite a bit of wildlife, so to speak. If you want to get the tag and take the training, just make sure that your dog is actually trained. And it's a great reason to train them so that they can be off leash. So everybody's happy. Everybody enjoys their walks a lot better. And I'm a personal believer that dogs need to run. They need to be out and not, tied up all the time. So Boulder also has a lot of really good dog parks. But today we're going to talk about my favorite trails and why they're my favorite trails for being off leash. The first trail I'm going to talk about is called the Sage Trail. And the Sage Trail, just right as you're leaving Boulder, there is a turnoff to Boulder Valley Ranch. And you take that turn to Boulder Valley Ranch and it'll take you right to the Sage Trail and Eagle Trail loop. And what I love about this trail is, first of all, it's about 3 miles long, maybe give or take a little bit. If I want to just get out every single day and do a fairly flat, easy loop and have views of the mountains, and it's a great trail. And my dog loves this trail. The best time to go is like around 10, 11 o'clock, where people have walked their dog in the morning and they had to go back to work. So you have the least amount of other traffic around 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. Halfway around the trail, it's like beautiful, and it surrounds this private ranch where there's horses and cows, and you can always see the horses and cows. Sometimes you'll encounter a horse, so you want to make sure your dog isn't spooked by the horse or doesn't spook the horse. There's 2 real claims to fame to the Eagle Trail. One is that halfway around the loop, there's this pond, and the dogs can go swimming in it. My dog's name is Addie, and you're seeing some pictures of her. In the summertime, this is perfect, right? Because you don't have to carry water, because halfway around the dog is going to be able to get water and get cooled off. You also oftentimes see a lot of eagles, and I've seen a lot of hawks for sure, red-tailed hawks, but I've also seen bald eagles out there. If you go counterclockwise around the trail, then on the halfway mark, you'll go up this little hill after you pass the pond, and we go up this trail and you're gonna encounter these prairie dog communities. And these prairie dog communities are hilarious. And there's a lot of people in Boulder that are really protective of these communities of these prairie dogs. Now, I'm all for whatever your passion is and protecting animals and all the things, but the truth of the matter is they're just rodents. And what they are is they're food for coyotes, and they're food for the hawks. And so dogs as well like to chase these prairie dogs. So if you feel comfortable that your dog is not going to be distracted by these prairie dogs, then you could still have them off leash. But I basically put a little collar on my dog, so if she starts to get excited about these prairie dogs, then I just kind of give her a little tap, and it reminds her that she shouldn't be chasing the prairie dogs. But I've seen dogs going after them, and it's kind of funny. So that's the only thing to watch out on the Sage Trail. Other than that, it's got a little bit of up and a little bit of down, but so gentle. So, it's a very easy trail. I love it because I can get a 3-mile walk in, go out, be out, get my dog's exercise. It's just kind of like my go-to daily trail. Highly recommend it if you're looking for something like that. The second trail that I want to talk about, we call it the Addy Trail, but actual name of the trail is the Yoder Ranch Trail, Joder. And the only downside is it's got kind of two parts to it. And there's a trailhead off of Old Stage Road near Buckingham Park. It's kind of tucked in there, so not a lot of people know about it on that side of the trail. That's the side of the trail we always go up. And Addie loves it. She can be off leash. There's very little traffic. It's not a lot of traffic. So this is a good time to tell you that there's an app called All Trails, and All Trails is like the best place to go for learning about any trail, probably in the country, but especially in the Boulder vicinity. And anyway, on All Trails, they call it a mountain bike trail. So you do get some mountain bikers on the trail if you go at certain times of the day, especially on the weekends. But during the week, like I said, around 10 o'clock in the morning or even earlier in the morning, you don't run into hardly anyone. Like, I rarely come across more than 1 or 2 people on this trail. Now, the cool thing about this trail is every April, there's always a litter of kilts of foxes that is in this little rock crevasse right off the trail, and you won't see them unless you're really looking for them. It is cool to see the foxes, and in the spring in Boulder, you'll see the foxes, and they're so beautiful. Addie Trail / Yoder Ranch Trail also has a lot of beautiful wildflowers in the spring, and it's my favorite time to go because they just have all kinds of different, arnica and bluebells and wild, daisies. And I have a really close friend who is very, very astute at wild plants and can tell you what kind of plants are good for medicinal and what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. And so he's shown me there's all this pepper out there, actual pepper. So you could actually take it and harvest it. And so anyway, it's kind of a neat trail for that, but you'll still see deer. If you don't want to see wildlife and that kind of freaks you out, then this is probably not a good trail to go on in the spring. There's lots of little routes you can take on the trail too. If you want a more steep route, you can veer off to the west, or you can go all the way to Highway 36 on Yoder. Now, if you don't know where I'm talking about finding this little trailhead, you can start on the other side and go west from east to west on the trail and then back. It's not a loop, so it's an in and out. It's about 1.9 miles one direction if you go all the way. All right, so that's my second off-leash trail that I really love. Third off-leash trail that I really love is Green Mountain Hike. So from Gregory Canyon. Now this hike is going to be a lot more popular and a lot more touristy. So I never go on the weekends on this trail. But if you go in the morning during the week, you won't see that much traffic. And seeing traffic and people isn't always bad, right? It's fun to meet people on the trails. I've met some of my best friends on the trails before. So Green Mountain is the highest mountain that you can climb in Boulder. You can start all the way at the bottom at Gregory Canyon and go all the way up to Green Mountain. You can also start at Gregory Canyon and go up and climb the Flatirons, the first Flatiron. Typically never ever do that because it's a really difficult hike, but Green Mountain is also not easy. But there's 3 different entry points where you can go to Green Mountain. One is at the bottom. One is you can drive up to Realization Point, which is about, 3.5 miles up Flagstaff Road. And you can look these names up on the map. Gregory Canyon, Flagstaff Road, and you go up to a trail club called Realization Point, and then you can poke into the trail right there at that site where you're at this place that is I can't remember what they call it now, the ranch station. That it's like a little building, a little cabin. Then you can go up Green Mountain from there, so you cut off some of the hike because it's kind of long. It's fairly long. Once you get up to a certain point, then you can either go left or right. And if you go left, you have to put the dog on the leash, and if you go right, you can keep the dog off the leash. But if you go right, it's much steeper. I just don't think it's quite as beautiful as the left-hand side, but you can have the dogs off the leash most of the time, even though it says you're supposed to have them on leash. The reason for that is they don't want the dogs ruining the trails up there, and they don't want them, going after the wildlife, because now you're going up into the mountain. So as long as your dog stays with you and really is well behaved, then you'll probably be okay. It's nice for the dogs to be able to be up in this kind of terrain. The view from up there is spectacular, right? You can see all of Boulder, and then you can see the divide. And if you go to the other side, you can see the other side. So it's like a spectacular trip. I really like Green Mountain, but like I said, it takes me a little longer because now you're getting some altitude, you're getting some elevation, and so you're not breathing as well, and it's a more difficult hike. If you're going to be up there and you want something that's a little bit more low key, you don't want to do Green Mountain. If you go a little further from Realization Point, there's another entry point where you can go up the West Ridge, and it's much shorter. And so you can get to the top a lot quicker and get the gratification of seeing all the views and stuff. My daughter has a tradition of going up there at sunrise on her birthday. So sometimes she'll, have to get up at like 5 o'clock to see the sunrise. She'll take the shorter route. So anyway, that's Green Mountain. Now, come down to where we started at Realization Point. On that side, there's several trails that are shorter, stunningly beautiful, less strenuous. And you can have dogs off leash, obviously I have to keep saying, with the voice and side tag. Otherwise, you have to have them on the leash. There are some trails where you can't have dogs at all. So be careful. Just look for, can you have a dog? Can they be off leash? Or do you have to have them on leash? And many people like to just have their dogs on leash because they don't have to worry about them running off or doing something untoward. Yeah, so Realization Point, there's a couple of different loops. There's one that's like 1.5 miles, but the claim to fame of this particular route is that it goes to the back side of the Boulder Ridge, and you can see the divide, you can see the all of the mountains in the background, and it's like a picture, it's like storybook. You can't even believe how beautiful it is. So there's one that's like a road. I think it's called Chatham Road. And I like to do that one, but that one does have a lot of bikers on it, especially on the weekends. So always remember, like, you could be disturbed by bicyclers. Now, maybe you are a mountain biker and you're looking for a mountain biking trail. We'll do a different session on that, but there's lots of mountain biking in Boulder, tons of it. So we'll talk about that another session. Now, if you want to go a little bit further outside of Boulder, I have a couple of other trails that I'll just mention here. One is called Colson Gulch, and the other one is Button Rock. And you can look them up, Button Rock and Colson Gulch. Button Rock goes up one side of this reservoir. I think it's a Roosevelt Reservoir. And then the Colson Gulch goes up the other side. And it is just so beautiful. You walk up through this canyon, and then when you get to the top, there's like gorgeous lake, but it's actually a reservoir where you're not supposed to do any swimming, but I think there's some boating that goes on there. It's just in the summertime, super green and really pretty. So those are a couple of other suggestions. Now, Button Rock, you gotta have a dog on the leash. You can't have a dog off the leash in that one, but you can have a dog. Colson Gulch, you can have the dog off the leash. So just check it, make sure that you're reading the signs and you know what the rules are. But the cool part is that we have this program in Boulder, and it allows for having our furry friends have a really nice time out on the trails. So thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the end. If you have any questions, or you want to just drop me a note and say, like, ask for if there's a certain type of trail that you want to explore, then, you know, drop me a comment and I'll answer your questions, what my favorites are. I mean, I'm not going to be doing a lot of like major, you know, steep and high 14ers, but my son-in-law is a 14er freak. So we've done a bunch of 14ers. So if you're interested in 14ers, if you're interested in just these more off-leash trails, any kind of hike really, just ask me what you'd like to do, and I'll see if I have any like super secret trails that most people don't know about. If you are also looking for a move to this area, please make sure that you drop me a line, give me a text, and I'd be happy to engage you in an exploration of finding your perfect home here in Boulder.